I don't know, we're like sandwiched between like Ludacris and the Backstreet Boys or something, but like what in this picture does not make sense? It was always us.
Hey guys, James Wilson Taylor here for Roxanne with another of our video calls, catching up with everybody while we're all stuck at home. Delighted to say Mr. Pete Wentz is on the line now. How are you, Pete?
Good, man. How are you?
Not too bad, man. Yeah, that's how we've been starting all these off, just making sure you are safe. Everyone kind of staying safe and well where you are at the minute.
Yeah, we're all healthy. Been quarantined for, I don't know, 2 months now. Bunch of kids, couple dogs. It's an interesting life. What about you? You good?
Yeah, I'm good, man. You know, like I say to everyone, luckily we have technology, so I can still do my job from the comfort of my glamorous home studio here. It's all working
Totally.
very, very well, man. It's all good. Let's talk new music then, man, because there's songs out there. Check your phone. Such a departure from anything you've done before. I mean, you've done so many different types of things over the years, but really, really different. You jumped on the track, like it existed in some way, shape, or form before you got involved, right? What was it that appealed to the track that made you want to get involved with it?
Well, I heard the song, and it was interesting because I've been trying to do a version of the Baz Luhrmann Sunscreen song for about 10 years. And every time I've done it, it always felt like a little too like angry dad yelling at kids, or like, this doesn't even make sense. And this one felt more like irreverent, which I think captured the spirit of that of Sunscreen. And I also think that to me, there's things that don't necessarily fit in Fall Out Boy, but like kind of make sense and are compelling to me to do. And this is one of them. And in some weird ways, it kind of like threw me back to doing old Fall Out Boy spoken words. It was, I don't know, it was just fun. And then like we did it like 5 months ago, and then like in quarantine we're kind of like, wow, people have a lot of time on their hands. Maybe we should just like put some weird stuff out. You know what I mean? Because like, who knows? If they like it, they like it, and if they don't, it's just like some weird stuff.
Yeah, sure. But it's good to experiment with stuff like that for sure. It reminded me of like, do you remember the Avalanches and all that kind of stuff with like
Totally.
the spoken word dance stuff? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
cool. And obviously you're getting on well with the guys Cheap Carts, and they're very established producers in their own right. More stuff to come with them. It seems like you're really enjoying that collab.
I hope so. We have at least one other song that I really like that we haven't really like put a button on, but I think could be really cool. And yeah, I mean, it's just such a different, strange muscle to flex. And at the time, like, it's just really easy because you're just emailing back and forth, and I can like record it in my house. And yeah, so there's that. And then like, I don't know, maybe I'll like put a little thing together. I have like a bunch of kind of like leftover songs over the years, and maybe, I don't know, I haven't like really figured it out, but maybe I'll put a little thing together.
Yeah, maybe have you got any more of the kind of spoken word stuff you never used? Maybe it kind of would fit really well with this.
Yeah, I mean, I have one other, and then that was never used, and then like some just like really weird stuff that like maybe it's all would be weird on its own, but like if I put it together, like I've written some songs with my neighbor over here, and just like, yeah, maybe there's just like stuff from over the years. Like years ago I wrote a song with BB Rexa and Sia. Like, I don't know, there's just like a bunch of different stuff that's like all over the place. So I don't know,
man. I mean, now's the time.
And by the way, and before I say anything, wrote it with Sia, not featuring Sia, so the internet does not need to blow that up.
Well clarified, very well clarified right there. Well, it's nice that you've got kind of new stuff you can play with, especially in this weird time we're all in right now. But the other cool thing that's just happened this week, you guys reflecting on 15 years of one of the biggest albums, certainly in Roxanne's lifetime. I mean, my God, From Under the Cork Tree turning 15. Incredible album, obviously. It must have been amazing to kind of reflect on that success. And, how do you look back on those songs in as much as you can when you've had something that massive?
Yeah, I mean, it's like so strange because like, I don't think we thought we would be talking about, I mean, we definitely couldn't have imagined quarantine, but I don't think we thought we'd be talking about that album like 15 years later when we were making it, because it was just like a weird album. And I remember after we made Take This to Your Grave, we were like, this is the time where if we're going to change we got to do it now, or we're going to be stuck kind of doing the same thing, and I think if we do it now, and so we were, like, maybe in retrospect, it wasn't like a huge change, but at the time it felt like a big change. And I don't know, I have a great deal of, affection for the record, because it kind of like led to us being able to go around the world and play music. And so, like it allowed like your wildest dreams to kind of come true, which is really cool.
Absolutely. But it's funny you say about even playing it live and going around the world. I remember going to that tour, and the really striking thing about it was you were playing like maybe 2K cap rooms over here in the UK. It still felt like they were too small to hold you guys, because those songs were absolutely everywhere at the time. I mean, you must have felt like those shows were just electric at the time.
Oh yeah, man. It was like, it's so funny because I like, now I kind of like see like the Travis Scott documentary or something, or, whatever it is that's happening currently. And I'm like, oh my God, that's like what it felt like, where the fire marshal would be at every show and they would like try to like kick us out, and the people would crowd surf onto the stage. Like it was just like kind of semi-controlled mayhem. You know what I mean? And like really special, because you were like, we're part of a thing, or a thing is happening here that's bigger than the four people on stage, which is really cool. You know what I mean? Like you're like, it's not just the four of us like playing this in a rehearsal space. Like we're all a part of this thing, which is really cool.
Yeah, and it felt like that summer in particular, it just exploded. It kind of, Sugar and Dance obviously just went absolutely massive. Are there any particular moments over that particular summer period, I guess, where you just suddenly realized, oh, this has gone big now? Like, were there any particular moments you pick out there?
Well, so we were on Warped Tour, and so like in some strange ways, it was like that like Brendan Fraser movie where he like lived underground, for 40 years or 30 years, and he comes up and he like doesn't really understand what the world is like. So in some ways, it was like being like in a bubble, but there were moments where you felt it, like where our bus was parked in like public parking, and like one day you could get off the bus and brush your teeth, and then like the next day you just couldn't do that. And that was just like a strange thing, and like on days off we would go like do TRL or something, which was just weird, because we were kind of like, we would go there and we were like, oh my God, there's like actual famous people here, you know what I mean? And like somehow we're here too, or whatever, which was just like a really weird feeling.
Yeah, you suddenly realize you are one of those famous people now. That's it. It's the sudden change, man.
Yeah, and it's like I think we didn't even have any of the realizations, because like we didn't have like a stylist, and we didn't have like press training. So it was just like, we were just like these weird people. And there was like, I guess, a vacuum for boy bands or something at the time. So we just like, we were one of them, you know what I mean? But like, we were just weird looking, you know what I mean? And like, it was just like a really weird thing, because you were like, I don't know, we're like sandwiched between like Ludacris and the Backstreet Boys or something. But like, what in this picture does not make sense? It was always us.
It clicked, man. It all clicked together. I guess it's funny when you talk about, working on new music, whether it's this Cheap Cut stuff or what might come in the future with Fall Out Boy and things. What do you think stayed with you guys from making that record to now? Because from what I've been reading and things I've heard of this, it feels like, particularly with yourself and Patrick, you really fell into that groove in the studio on this one, right? What stayed the same from that process?
I think that one of the things that really stayed, that's a great question, man. I think that one of the things that really stayed the same was, I mean, there was definitely a moment where I only cared about the words, and Patrick only really cared about the melody at the time. And there was a moment where I would sit in the vocal booth with him, and he would sing, and we would change word by word. We would go through like, this word works, this doesn't work, this melody, this phrasing works. And at the time, I think we didn't know each other's boundaries, and we've gotten like real fist fights. And then what we took away from that was like, hey man, like maybe the balance between what we both want is what is making some of the songs special. And I think that one of our biggest takeaways was that like we respected each other, it's creative process. And so like Patrick can be like, oh, those words suck to me now. And I'm like, yeah, they probably do. You know, like I think that like, I think of us as two parts of a whole more so rather than like two different people. So like, it doesn't hurt my feelings when he like doesn't use lyrics that I think were great or something, you know, like I feel less sensitive about it, which I think was a big takeaway.
Yeah, it's interesting how you learn and vibe with people over the years. Those relationships change and establish, and now here we are, 15 years later, man. 15 years later. One last question I have to ask about that album, because it just kind of clicked for me the other day. We always knew there were some guests you had in the studio and popping up here and there. The one I want to ask you about is Brendon, purely because, correct me if I'm wrong, is that like his first recorded appearance? The timeline suddenly hit me. That must be pre-Panic, right?
So it was like he'd done Panic demos, but I think he'd never been in a real studio. And so, oh man, it was crazy because it was all so new. And I remember like Patrick and Neil Adron were both kind of producing him and like goofing around with him. And he had like a really raw electric talent, like something that like he would just be screwing around and sing something or whatever. And it was like, oh wow, that was like, was that the idea? Cause that was like better than the idea we thought we had, you know? And I like, it was really weird because it was like a thing where you could just watch from the outside, or like watching somebody who's like so preternaturally good at what they do and they don't even actually know it and the world doesn't know it. So it's like seeing it all before it happens or something was so odd at the time.
Man, it's crazy to think back and look at everything that's happened with both you guys since then. It's absolutely crazy. One thing I wish we could be talking more about, of course, is Hella Mega. I know it's obviously things are going to get moved around the world we live in, but just in general terms, I mean, you must be absolutely psyched. I mean, those are heroes and now contemporaries of you. It must be absolutely amazing preparing for this tour that we know will happen at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because you're like, you have to go back and like, because like anytime you're thinking about it, you're like, oh, I'm like, you know, we're like the middle kid on the bill and like this and that. And then like I go back and I'm like, dude, you're the middle kid on the bill between like the band that gave you Basket Case and gave you Dookie and Weezer in the same era. Like that's insane. And I remember thinking that, and then we played a little show, the three of us at Whiskey A Go Go, and like the Weezer songs were insane. Like that band just has really, you forget, you're like, oh yeah, that was another one of their songs. That was another one of their songs. And then we stayed and watched Green Day after, and like I had felt like all the songs that had gotten played that night were big and special and the room was pretty electric, but when you get to some of those Green Day songs, they're like actually baked into people's DNA. And so like it was another level, you know what I mean? It was like you're like fighting the boss now or something, you know what I mean? Which was like kind of crazy. Yeah, so I don't know, we're psyched. We did our rehearsals, we built our stage show, we did that in December, January, and then this has all happened. So we're like, I feel bad because I'll be like, you know, on social media or something, and people are like, what's going on with it? And I'm like, we just don't know any more than anyone else. And like new stuff about like the whole thing comes out every day that like just contradicts everything else. So I would just say that like when we know something, we will tell everyone else something. And that we're like psyched to do the tour. So it's going to be awesome.
Of course. I think it's something I've said with everybody recently. You know, these aren't cancellations. They're getting postponed. These shows will happen at some point, and it's something to look forward to in the future. And my God, with a lineup like that, it's going to be a big, big party, man.
Yeah. When it happens, it's going to feel great. It's going to feel great to have live music again.
100%, man, 100%. I'll leave you with this, kind of what is next? I know you'd kind of talked a little bit after the second greatest hits record that maybe there'd be some little Fall Out Boy bits and pieces maybe around the tour. Is there anything out there you're going to be putting out in the next wee while? Who knows?
I mean, I think it would be great. I think the plan had been like, yeah, maybe we'll go screw around in the studio, and it's just so much harder. Like, it's so easy to sit here and be creative on your own, and like, because you're just like, I'm just stuck in my house with myself, so like I'm the only person, like I just got nothing but time to do this. We've been talking about it and trying to figure out like what would it be, or like, can we do something else in between? Then can we do like a Fall Out Boy Zoom, or could we, I don't know, we haven't really figured out what it would be. I gotta teach Patrick what Zoom is, but yeah, I mean, listen, there's gonna be more Fall Out Boy stuff at some point. We're just not actively working on it yet.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. We look forward to it in the future when it does arrive. And I have to leave you with this as well, because I know that when you were playing around with action figures in your quarantine zone, people got excited. I don't know if you saw this, but I thought of you immediately. Have you seen Universal, including Music Group, now have done a big deal with Lego? So I'm just saying. No. I'm just saying, man, that came out the other week. I think it's across movies and music.
Yeah, you put an idea in my head right now.
Right, here we go.
A literal text. Yeah, I'm sending a text literally when we get off this.
Okay, that's something to look forward to. Fingers crossed, man. Pete, it's always a pleasure, man. Stay safe. Love to you and the guys, and we'll hopefully see you again in the UK very soon.
Thanks, dude. Stay safe as well.
All right, cheers, man. All right, Pete, everybody.